All right, so we are recording it, and I'm stoked today because I got my man Zach here, sitting with me today. Zach, we were just talking about off camera right now. You got a light about you, bro. I'm excited. Can you tell the audience a little bit about maybe kind of who you are a little bit?
It's hard not to smile talking to you, man. I'm excited.
Likewise.
I'm from Drake, Mass. If anyone knows where that is, northern Massachusetts. I went to St. Anselm College for undergrad, and then I went to Northeastern for a post-bac. And I've been an EMT for a long time. I've been a teacher, CPR instructor. I run marathons when I can. I've run 2 so far. A big reader, and I love to play lacrosse and hike and all that. So I'm really outdoorsy and just trying to always exercise. Love doing hot yoga if anyone loves doing that. So I'm more of just I love to exercise and grow academically as well. So, but
That's awesome.
just recently got accepted to school in September, and couldn't have done it without this guy.
So awesome, Zach. You're an outdoorsy guy, and I know you're a man of many interests because I know your application. I know you as a person. So Zach is being very humble in terms of like what all the things he's interested in and does, and I'm always really fascinated by you. So Zach, I guess just people want to know, transparency speaking, and heads up, like Zach was very, very successful this cycle. What were your what were your stats? Like everyone just focuses on GPA and MCAT. Like, what were yours?
I honestly feel that when you look at me, you have to think, okay, how much do the stats really matter? Because
Mhm.
I'm a person who basically had to reinvent himself. In my undergrad, I tore both my ACLs, and I was honestly pretty depressed, and I went through a lot. And I was able to show committees how much I changed as a man. I never had touched a patient before, so my growth overshadowed anything about my statistics. So my initial GPA in undergrad was like a 2.7, and then I went back and and I went so it was like a 2.7. Granted, there was only like 100 students
Wow.
that started, and only 10 finished with my degree. It was ridiculous, really hard. And I played lacrosse, but as I said, I had like a 2.7 GPA. I didn't know my purpose. I didn't know how to study appropriately. Took a post back after I spent about a year on an ambulance, and I knew this is exactly what I wanted to do. I worked in research for a little bit, knew I didn't want to do that. So I went back to school, did a post back at Northeastern, had to get a 4.0, got a 4.0, spent a year studying for the MCAT, got only a 500, but I almost didn't apply because of that. But I don't know what it was, but I just had this sense that I should shoot for it.
Yeah.
And I did, and talked about what it was like for me going through all this and developing as a man and as a person. And from there, I just gave the reins to God, to be honest. So it
It's
was,
interesting.
I had like a 3.3, I guess, if it was like totaled in, and then a 500.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I'm glad that you kind of gave context around your stats because it really shows people like, yeah, you are not just your stats. And this is what I try to emphasize to a lot of people all the time. They get anchored on that and obsessed with those numbers. It's like, look at you, Zach. You went to undergrad, you had a 2.7, you did a post back, you knew what you needed to do, but there was so much in between stuff. Maybe med school's in your path, maybe something else is in your path. There was a lot of shifts, and you were just open to pursue these things. But there was so much growth in that in between state that really shaped you. And once you did identify, like, no, I want to be a doctor, this is what I want to do, man, you just had so much like a plethora of really interesting and unique perspectives that the world kind of gave you. And I'm kind of jumping ahead here a little bit, but I genuinely believe that's why medical schools were so drawn to you because of this level of maturity that you had about yourself through life and things like that. So, is that a fair assessment, Zach?
No, I appreciate you saying that. I think you're completely right. And if I, just drop in any advice, I'm sure we'll get there, is to anybody, is you can't beat conviction. When you have it in your heart that this is what you're supposed to do, like, and you prove it to yourself before anyone else, and you set your entire mind to it. And like, I just built this whole place around me. Everything I did was to try and get into school because I knew that is what my purpose was in life. So I needed to
Wow.
do so.
So good, man. I love that. Zach, you when you applied to medical school, how many programs when you hit your primary application submission, how many programs did you apply to?
It was about 25. I did only DO. I
Okay.
would have liked to apply to some MD schools, but honestly, all the MD schools around me, because I'm in New England, are like, Harvard, UMass, Dartmouth, like Ivy League level schools. And I was just like, I had so many friends who are also in the similar positions as me, and they would apply to like 15 schools and didn't hear a word back. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to play that game right now.
Yeah. I think too, it's like when we talked about it, I remember when you came to me, like you were set like, no, I'm DO, like all the way. I'm fully DO. And I know that's how you still feel right now, which is
I
awesome.
love the philosophy.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like you are someone, maybe this comes from your maturity, your life maturity, and your just kind of growth through the years and stuff like that, is that you knew that for you, it's like geography is important to me. Family's important to me. My community is important to me. It's like, I'm not going to compromise that. And sure, I could go apply to MD schools and probably get accepted to a bunch of MD schools outside in other states, but a very important priority for you was where you're at. And that's awesome to see that you knew that.
Yeah, and it's a very good point, because a lot of it was community for me. Is I wanted to be in a school that wanted me there, didn't look at me as a number. I wanted to be in a rural area. I wanted to be in a town or an area that was like I would be proud to be in. I'm not a city person, so I wanted to live more like aesthetically, and perfectly aligned with where I ended up. And so that was actually really important to me. That's a good point that you brought up.
So cool. So cool. I love that, Zach. Okay. So 25 schools and that's that's a little bit above the average, pretty much around the average, the national average.
Mhm.
In all DO schools, some people are still going to be kind of freaking out. I know watching this, they're like, oh, okay, 2.7, you had a post back. Okay, sure, you did good in the post back. You had a 500 MCAT. Right. But that doesn't speak to your entire application. And I know your application really well. What do you feel like was your strong point in your application? And you're like, whoa, this is something I really hang my hat on.
Honestly, I think there was two things, and I think I have I worked 7 years on an ambulance, and I worked overtime every week for 7 years. So I think maybe my clinical hours, I was like 17,000 hours.
Yeah, it was insane.
But for me, I always felt like that was the most important thing. I was a field training officer for a long time. And that's like, if you were a brand new EMT, you would come on the truck and you would follow me. And I had probably hundreds of students. I was an EMT instructor, and I had so many people who wanted to go to medical school. And for me, it didn't make sense for someone to want to be a doctor, but never touch a patient, never be in a position of responsibility. I wanted to go out there and, how do you know you're not afraid of blood? How do you know you're not, your dexterity is poor? I felt like those things were absolutely necessary. So for me, I needed to like go through the ringer. So I think that, and then honestly, what you and I developed together, when I was looking back at our was our Microsoft doc, and I
Yeah.
wrote Zach and Alejandro's personal statement because I genuinely felt that we had developed it in such a way. So I had a lot of the passion, a lot of the heart. I had some good writing skills. I had good literacy, but it was you who helped me with my almost like psychology of writing and not needing to say, you could say so little, yet say so much. So I think those two were like, I'm a testament to how important clinical hours can be and how important your story is.
So good. And it's like, you're a career changer. So a lot of people are like 16, 17,000 hours, clinical hours. Like, yes, most Zach and Outlier. You don't, for those watching right now, you don't need thousands of hours of clinical.
You
In fact, I
don't.
tell people yeah, to have minimum 250 hours, but you're a career changer and that's naturally kind of what you had. And that was a strength of yours. And it was a passion of yours. It still is a passion of yours too, which is really cool. And so I love what you said about the writing piece, because I remember you're a big reader. You love reading. In fact, you were recommending me some books before we got on this call right now, which is sick. And so you had that, like, that I can write kind of piece. Like, I know I'm comfortable writing and narrative writing, Alejandro, I can do that. But we just kind of like came together and was like more the psychology. It's like the psychology of writing, persuasive writing, and getting in the minds of people, making them feel like what I call emotional resonance, and feeling compelled to be like, I need to meet this person. I got to meet this person. So let me ask you this, Zach.
It's
You
purposeful.
sent out, I'm assuming you sent out all your secondaries to 25 schools.
Oh yeah, I ripped them all.
I know you did them
I think
fast
maybe,
too. I remember how
yeah,
you did them fast. You joined my program a little bit, quote unquote, late. I think you joined it a little bit later, and you were like one of the
I didn't
first
know
ones done with everything. You just really put the band. You got pedal to the metal.
that. Mhm.
Let me ask you this: when you got your interviews, well, let's start here really quick. How many interviews did you end up receiving total?
I actually got like a couple like last week. I ended up getting 14 interview invites.
Wow,
I was like, I'm very blessed. So
that's so awesome.
I had
Wow,
to
man.
turn down, I turned down 7 of them. So
Did you imagine? Did you imagine having to be in this position at all when you started?
zero shot, Alejandro. Before I talked to you, I wasn't going to apply. I I I have a saved message on my phone of my partner, my paramedic partner. He called me and he's like, Zach, like, you need to apply. He's like, and he leaves me like a 2-minute, like very heartfelt message. And like that meant a lot, because I mean, this is a guy like every day, like, I'm not saying being an EMS, you save lives all the time, but sometimes you do. And, we've done a lot together. Actually, he was in my personal statement. So I felt like that was a message. My parents were like saying, you got to apply. I was basically the only person saying I shouldn't apply. My girlfriend, my friends, everyone. But yeah, going off
Well, let's
topic
talk
there a
about
little bit.
that real quick, Zach. What everyone was telling you to apply. What was inside your head? What was going on in your like thought process that was like, no, I'm not going to apply? Can you like elaborate on that?
I thought that I needed to overcome my GPA with a higher MCAT, and I was so upset because I was like, I know that I'll be good if I get like a 505. And honestly, that's what I was getting on my practice test. Like my last 3 practice tests, I was getting like between 504, 506. So I was definitely like blown about that. But just felt like I don't know, I just had like this feeling and I just shot at it. So that's
Mm,
everything I had. And when I was, you mentioned ripping out those personal statement, the secondaries. Honestly, if I can give anybody advice, you have a fantastic several prompts that I looked at pretty thoroughly and was like, okay, well, let me write to these prompts, and tailoring to each school off of those prompts was relatively easy. Like I was like, okay, well, this is, I forget the exact one, but this is
yeah.
like, tell me a DO story,
Mm,
tell me why you want to be a DO. Tell me a hardship, and I went off of those and I basically wrote those, and those took me the most amount of time. But then once I started to find recurring matters, I then just tailor them to the specificity of the school. So it was great. I mean, I thought that guidance really helped me like do it so quickly. And I
let's
just
go.
sat here, I would work, come home and write. I would work, come home, write, exercise, because I wanted it. I wanted to apply early. I thought that was the best way to get a good chance of getting into school.
Yeah, you were regimented. I know you were super disciplined. You were on it, and I love that. I was like, yes, Zach is just. I know if I tell Zach to do something, he's going to do it, and he's going to get it done early, and he's going to get it done right. And I was just so. I was like, yes. I was like, Zach, teach everyone else to be like this. um,
Well, if I
um,
must say, man, honestly, like one more thing to add on to that, you like I figured this all out on my own. I have nobody in my family who's in medicine, nobody
yeah,
who's even a CNA, So this is the first time that I ever felt like I had like a friend or a partner. None of my friends are in medicine. So none of my close friends or anything. So it was really helpful to me to be like, oh, like to have somebody have my back. Like I couldn't, it was so empowering for me. And I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
lot of people out there like that.
Yeah.
So
So cool. Zach, I know you were super serious. We're talking about all the writing and stuff like that. When you got to these interviews, you had 14. I know you canceled a lot of them because you just didn't need to go. Was there any discussion? Did anybody bring any of your writing pieces up at all? Did they comment on any of them? Anything like that?
yeah. So my my first interview was at RVU, Montana, and it was virtual. And this guy was very bright, highly decorated, Army. I think he was in the Army. No, he was a Navy surgeon, like fellowships in like 2 different specialties. Like I was scared to talk to this guy. And he brings up how he used to dance, and because I was in show choir and we talked about show choir and musicals for a little bit, and he really liked how I spoke about that. But I could tell from a few times, like when people did bring up my personal statement, that they were impressed about the emotion of it and how direct it was and how they could feel. I actually had like 2 interviewers say that they cried. One of them said that they were honored to meet me. Like they started the interview saying, "We just want to let you know we're honored to meet you. Like we think you're an amazing person." I'm like, hold up. Like I'm honored to be here right
Wow.
now. Like this is a top choice of my school. Like I couldn't believe it that they would even say that to me. I was like choked up. But and again, like all this comes from, I'm a very humble person. If you couldn't tell, I like went through a lot. I didn't think that I'd ever be able to sit here. So, I tell people that all the time. But I had like a few interviewers be like, yeah, like we really enjoyed your personal statement. We really enjoyed your secondaries to us. Like, so, it's maybe a little bit of specificity there. If you want me to go more in depth, I couldn't easily, but
I mean, you gave me chills when you said that. Like 2 people looked at you looked at you and said, I read your personal statement, I cried. And I think to me, I love hearing that because it's like we actually got to the essence of who you are and we made someone feel a piece of like your journey. And I think that's what's the beautiful part of the personal statement is that when you can touch someone's soul, like when you had that soul writing,
that's what we're
it,
trying to do, man. Even as a
that's what we're trying
doctor.
to do. Yeah. And it like almost like bypasses their logical mind. I just had a recent interview with somebody just like this, Amul, and he had a 499 MCAT. And same thing. It's like, statistically speaking, like my logical brain says, no, maybe statistically, you probably shouldn't, quote unquote, be here at this school. But it's like when you can capture and speak to someone's soul, they're like, no, I need to meet this person. Like, this is incredible. So that's just super cool to hear, Zach. Honestly, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, of course, man. It's the least I could do.
Yeah. Okay. So the writing was powerful. You got the 14 acceptances. You didn't go to like half of them. How many acceptances did you end up getting? I guess today, February 26th, 2026.
I got into 7 schools.
Wow. So
7
wait,
schools.
is that like 100% ratio of like the interviews you went on?
Yeah. I got very blessed, man. I got into every school I interviewed at.
That is wild, man. Okay, and I'm assuming one of these was your top school.
Oh yeah. So what's crazy is I had three or four top schools, and one of them is like closest to me in Maine, and I just got the I just got the interview invite, and I was like, I found a school that was better for me, and it was beautiful, and it was everything that I wanted, and I was like, I'm kind of glad that I didn't get that interview invite until like that second um cycle through, how like they give their first initial interviews, and then they'll give the second ones when they have open spots.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
yeah,
that's
I actually had like a beautiful trip where I went down, and I had 2 in Virginia and 1 in West Virginia, and they were all within like 2 weeks of each other. So I drove down from Massachusetts. I drove like 13 hours, and it was it was absolutely gorgeous. I'm like driving through the mountains. I'm spending 2 weeks by myself and hiking and, you know, studying up and learning about all these schools and all these campuses. And it was just fantastic. And it was like one of the best times of my entire life.
That sounds so therapeutic. I love you were able to change the kind of stress of interviewing at schools into like, I'm gonna go out there and enjoy my time. I'm gonna enjoy the mountains. I'm gonna hike. I'm gonna research these schools, and that sounds
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah,
So
I when I showed up to WVSOM was where I'm going. I was just like, I felt like I genuinely felt like God that was rewarding me to be here. You
mm,
know, after everything that I've seen and gone through, and I was just like, you know, those little things are so important. You know, even going to Liberty University and VCOM. I mean, I just felt so honored to even be there at those schools. It was just so beautiful, such a beautiful area. I was like, everyone was so kind to me. I learned so much about the admissions process and about other people and myself. It was just great.
it's amazing. Yeah, I'm just kind of picturing what you said. It's like I truly believe like it's like God ordained. You know that you and I know your journey through application. You know from what you've shared and stuff, and what we've looked at, and it's like you have put in the work, and it's like you have gone through these valleys. You have now reached the mountaintop, and there's gonna be more mountains. There's gonna be more valleys, and I truly believe like I'm so happy, man, because God has like really blessed you in this sense, Zach. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Still, you know,
Yeah.
everyone's like always been so supportive of me, and I didn't get here alone. I honestly, like when I think about it, like 100+ people like helped me along the way for this journey.
Wow.
So I'm actually having a party before I leave, and I'm inviting like 150 people here, and I don't care.
Let's go.
I haven't taken a vacation in years. You know, I work really hard, so I'm having a
You
party with all my friends, and I'm like, send off.
and remind the audience, Zach, what medical school are you going to? Did you decide to attend, or have you decided?
I'm proud to say I'm going to West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine.
Wow.
Not saying anything poorly about any schools whatsoever. I'm super
Sure.
honored, and I loved a lot of the schools I went to. It was a very hard choice, but almost in a way, and it wasn't, because there are so many amazing things about the school I could rattle on. I could be a spokesperson for it at this point.
You kind of mentioned Zach, but like West Virginia, was that you had another school that was ahead? You were like, this is the one I really want to go to, but then you
Mhm.
got this. You're end up coming to this one right now. Like that scene, and I know you talked about the timing of it and stuff like that. That's just an interesting part to hear because I feel like a lot of people maybe they set their hopes on like one medical school, like I really want to get into University of Miami. Nothing is going to beat that, and then they get an interview to another school they didn't really think about too much, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I loved this school. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of want to go here now. Like, I don't, just having that open mindset and stuff like that. So it sounds like
You
that's
got
what
to
kind of happened to
absorb
you.
everything you see. You
Yeah.
know, when I was walking around in those tours, when I was speaking to people, I really listened to what they were saying. I really observed what was going on. I wanted to cut through if there was any bull, you know. I wanted to see what the place was about, because this is something that I've been working for so long. I've spent so much money, so much time. Like, this is not just an interview about them knowing you. You have to know them too. You have to understand that what you're signing up for, where you're gonna go, what kind of community are you in, are you obligated to be a part of and obligated to represent. So, you know, if I can give anybody any advice, I would think that way. You know, always be super respectful, always be positive, um, always be grateful, but understand what you are getting into. Understand what you are going to observe. Watch the students. You know, so
So good.
I was blown away at a lot of the places I went to. I went to Missouri. I went to ATSU, and that was an amazing school. I was baffled by that school.
Wow. So good, Zach. Was there anything, and just kind of wrapping up here, I know we're coming up on time. Was there anything in particular, looking back at the program, it wasn't MTM, Market the Mission, when you initially joined, but then it transformed into that. Was there anything in particular you found valuable within the program? Maybe it's something I did, maybe it's something I said that you kind of held on to. Maybe it was like a resource that was offered in the program. Was there anything like that at all that you could pinpoint? You're like, I really like this, or this really helped me.
Well, somehow on my algorithm on Instagram, that's when I first saw you. And I still remember, I wrote it down on March 20th, 2025. You posted about dream chasers. And then I started to go through a lot of your posts, and I really resonated with everything that you were saying. I was like, he's to the point, he's honest. He goes into English lessons, he gets into psychology, he's all about purposeful messaging, almost like no check boxes, very honest. And I was just like, this is what I want. This is exactly who I want to work with. So for me, it was an easy decision to reach out to you, but you were talking about how dream chasers compete with themselves. And, you think that they may be, I forget the exact, like what a gunner is, but you think that they're gunners, but when you talk to them, they uplift you. And I was like, that's all I've ever wanted to be. Like, that's the whole reason I want to be a doctor. And to hear that, it was an instant. I need to even just get in touch with this guy. And it was easy. But I think when we were working on the personal statement, and I thought it was like I worked really hard on it. I put a lot of time into it, and I had it reviewed a couple times, and I knew there was something missing, but sent it to you, ripped it apart, rightfully so, happy. I was like, oh man, I'm like, okay. But I could tell how much time you put into it. And I started to realize how meticulous you can be and how every word is meaningful. And we got to the point where, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this, I had people that I sent it to, they were like, that was really good, but I didn't hear enough about you. And I'm like, you didn't get it.
Yeah.
The whole thing was about me.
Yeah.
Every single sentence was about me, because what I'm telling you is my observations about what is going on. And from that, you can infer how I feel and what I am and what I want to be and what I represent. So you helped me bring that out in a way that, I didn't think possible. And now I feel, and then I took your lessons and really pushed it in secondaries and was like, okay, how do I say without saying? How do I, just like your actions, you do something and you can infer, your actions are really important, but now it's vernacular, so
Yeah.
I hope that
That's so
answers.
good. Dude, that totally answers it, Zach. And I
All
think
right.
you hit on so many excellent points right there, right? And it's like the program, MTM, it's not for everybody, right? And I communicate that a lot in my platform, that the things that we do, the things that I teach, my values, my beliefs, it's kind of upside down, right? It's kind of like, no, the personal statement isn't about me, quote unquote, right? And so when we hear other people saying, like, you need more of you in this, more of you, and it's like, that's exactly what adcoms are seeing on a regular basis over and over and over and over again. And then when they get to your personal statement, they pause and they're like, there's something different about this person. Why are they making me cry? Why are they making me feel so deep right now? But yet they're not really selling themselves, quote unquote, the way that everyone else is. Right. And it's like this upside down kind of shifted mindset. And again, I realize it's not for everybody, but for the people that are bought into this and for the people that really vibe with this, it is for them, and it can produce amazing results. So super happy. And thank you for sharing that, Zach. I guess just wrapping it up here, this last question is for the person, the pre-medical student who may be hearing a lot, they can see themselves in you right now. They've gone through a lot. Maybe they've taken multiple gap years. Maybe they were in a different career. Maybe they didn't get the MCAT score they wanted. Maybe they struggled in undergrad. What would you tell them if they were sitting here right now and they're just comparing themselves, they're doubting themselves? Yeah, what words, I guess, would you give that person?
It's funny, it's funny you bring this up because I actually taught a CPR class the other day, and I had two kids who were like just starting in undergrad, and they were like, like, what would you recommend? And and they were really, all about those numbers things. And I straight up told them, I'm like, find out who you are, find out what's important to you, prove it to yourself. I found out who I was when I was scared at 3 or 4 in the morning and I was going to a cardiac arrest. I found out that I was willing to be courageous, and that I was willing to work hard, and that I was willing to, feel like I was going to die because I like hadn't slept, and my brain's like ready to blow out of its head, and still smile at someone and hold their hand when they're scared, and, get into almost like a flow state. It was like playing lacrosse again for me, or it was singing on stage. I got into this state where I felt like connected with, honestly, what I felt like was God and my patient. And I felt like I had elevated myself beyond myself. And I don't know, I'm not saying it has to be an EMT. I'm not saying that has to be anything other than maybe human connection. I think that you need to find out where your strengths lie, but that's what we are essentially signing up for. We're signing up to be with a lot of honor, respect, and human connection with people. So I would just say, find out who you are and find out what is important to you, because that's what I am, and that's what I've kind of just developed. So
Amazing. I love that. I know those words are going to hit somebody and they're going to really resonate with somebody. And I totally forgot to ask you, Zach, and I know we're over time right now, but man, I ask this to everybody, like complete
go as long as you
right
want,
now.
man.
The only other question is your first acceptance. Like, when did it happen? What were you doing? Like, put us in your shoes in that moment of like when you got that acceptance call. I would love hearing these stories.
So believe it or not, I was literally on a tour for another school. And WVSOM called me. I think there was the first one I just got through an email. So I was like, I don't even want to mention that. But the second one, I got a phone call, and I literally thought that I butchered. It was my worst interview by far.
Way.
Because I was so nervous, man. I was so nervous. I wanted to go there so bad, and but I screwed up the ending line of my personal statement. There's a couple things. Yeah. I was here sometimes. I legit messed up. But they could tell that I knew everything about the school and I cared a lot about it. But so I'm on a tour for this other school, and I'm like, hold on, I gotta step over here, and I couldn't believe I had nothing to say, but I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much. I'm so honored. I love that school so much. And it really didn't hit me until it was like 2 days later, and I was going back home. And after the experience I had of 2 weeks, I was just driving through the mountains and the countryside of Virginia, and I was just like, this is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. There's blue mountains to the left of me, and it's just all hills and beautiful towns. And I started crying. I'm like, I can't believe that that I've been allowed to come here. I can't believe that I've been allowed to transcend myself and be something greater than I ever thought possible. So for me, that was what really, it wasn't like a single moment, but slowly just coming to the realization that I get that,
That's so powerful, Zach. And it just gave me chills hearing you say that, man, because I can visualize these mountains. And as you're kind of driving, and all of a sudden it dawns on you, it finally hits you. When you got that acceptance, Zach, I'm just curious, I don't know what point in the application cycle this was in, but if it was early, what did that allow you to do moving forward? Because a lot of people, for instance, when they apply MD only and even DO schools, they get 1 or 2 interviews, they get waitlisted at one place, and they're just sitting in this level of anxiety through the holidays, through the winter, through early spring. They can't think, they can't sleep. They're constantly checking their emails. They're asking themselves, what update letters do I need to send? How do I get in front of people? who do I need to do? Do I need to take the MCAT? Do I need to do more volunteering? Like, it's just this like dysregulated nervous system that they're in. But for
Yeah.
you, you get the acceptance early on. What does that do to you moving forward in the application cycle?
So for me, if I was to say something I
Yeah.
think that's where you come in handy
Yeah.
massively. I think that if anyone is, because unfortunately I wasn't put in that position, so I can't, thank God. So I
Yeah.
can't really say that, but I think that you are able to sit there and reevaluate, because you always make time for people, man. And to sit there and reevaluate with someone, I think that would be the most ideal thing. Again, it's super important for me to have a friend. And if I was to have you to be like, hey, we weren't as successful as we want to be right now, let's still wait, but where do we want to move from here? You have to think, levels. You have to sit here and be like, okay, what am I supposed to do next? Okay.
Mhm.
You can't get discouraged. You can't give up. There's no,
Yeah.
then that's where it comes to find yourself.
Yeah.
What it did for me, I got into the school that I like wanted to go to. And I was at the point where I was like, okay, well, I owe it to myself to look at these other ones. The only reason I think I did two more, I turned down the rest because I got two in Missouri, and I wanted to go down there because I felt like it was an honor just to get an interview at the original DO school. So I went down there and I went to KCU as well, and I checked those two schools out. Amazing experience. But the other thing about it was that what I think it really did for me is really not for me, but I turned down the interviews because I didn't think that was the right thing to do. I don't think that you should take away an interview spot from somebody else if you know what school, if you got into like your top school and then like your other, two other schools that you really liked, why give away, why take away those spots from somebody? So I didn't even, I respectfully emailed, but I was like, I knew this is where I wanted to go. So I think maybe just giving opportunities to other people is the right thing to do, but also it just made me feel at peace. It made me feel like,
Awesome.
so
I love that. It gave you peace, and I'm assuming it's like that peace allowed you to do the things that you loved, working out, do your job, spending time with friends, family, and I think it's so overlooked with pre-med. It's like, yeah, if I put in the effort and I put in the work and I do all the things that I need to do, and I get maybe an earlier acceptance, right? It's like now it's like I'm operating in peace. I can go do the things that I want to do, and I'm not in this dysregulated state for months. I think that's just takes such a toll on people. And pre-meds don't realize that. So super happy to hear that, Zach.
yeah. And the other thing is I didn't apply to any school that I couldn't see myself at.
So
I don't think you should be applying to places that, like, if you get in, you're not going to be excited about, honestly.
yeah. And I think that kind of goes back to, I remember earlier on in our we got together in a group call and we did the optimized school list and applying intentionally to the medical schools that you want to go to, and mission alignment is a huge thing. So that's an excellent point. Zach, thank you so much for this. I know that
Hey,
people
man.
are going to find so much value in this interview. And I'm super grateful to have worked with you. I'm super excited for you. I know you're going to be leveraging financial aid and stuff. If that comes across, we can talk about that. We have the workshop
I
that's
don't know
available.
anything about it, but I could use the help, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have the workshop available to you in phase 4. It's the med school money lab that I did. It's like a 2-hour workshop, and then you can always schedule with me and we can talk about it and stuff like that. So you can kind of get this. You have a lot of acceptances. We need to leverage that. Try to get
Guys
some
got
money.
guys got a workshop for everything.
Yeah, we're doing it, man. We're doing it. Zach, thank you so much for today, and yeah, I'm super grateful for you, bro.
My pleasure. And let me just say good luck to everybody. This is a really hard journey, but I think it's worth it. I don't, a lot of people will say they regret it. I don't think that I ever will. I hope I never will, but this was an amazing experience, and it's an honor to work with Alejandro. He really is extremely dedicated to you and does everything he can for you. So, I can't recommend him any higher. I hope we can work together again.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate the words, man. So, and thank you, everybody, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Take care, guys.